Hello everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad to have you back once again. So in today's tutorial, we're going to be making this trendy short bubu dress with a symmetric neckline and a cold shoulder sleeve. So this tutorial promises to be very interesting, very simple and well detailed. So I have this fabric here and I went on to measure my desired length, okay? So I have it folded into four as well. So from the shoulder I am going to come down to 16 inches, which is my waist measurement. Then from that point I'll also mark my waist to hip measurement and I'll label the lines together. Okay, note that this fabric is folded into four, just as I stated earlier. So I went on to measure to label my waistline, my hip line as well. Okay, so these are the line we are going to be needing for this simple tutorial. Okay, so I'll come to the shoulder line and I'm going to measure what I have there. So I'm going to divide my shoulder measurement into two and I'll impute it right here on the shoulder area. Okay, so the remaining fabric is what we're going to be using for our sleeve. So to get our shoulder slope, I measured 1.5 inches on it. Then on my neckline, we are working with 3 inches neck width. Okay, that is what I went on to measure and mark. Then I'm going to grab my ruler and I'm going to slope my shoulder, as you can see. All right, so after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to measure from my shoulder slope to the wideness of my sleeve. So note that this is a bubu dress and that implies that we are going to make our sleeve as free as possible. So I came down from my shoulder slope by 10 inches and I'm going to place a mark right there. Okay, and I also use my straight ruler to connect that line into a straight line. Okay, and that is going to form our bust line. Okay, so where our sleeve opening ended is where we are going to be marking our bust circumference. All right, so I'll go ahead and divide my bust circumference into four and I'll go ahead and mark the measurements on the new line we just marked. So after that, I'm going to be adding extra 2.5 inches to the bust circumference measurements. So if you want yours to be very free, you can go ahead and add extra 3 inches or 4. Okay, then on the waistline, I am going to measure my waist circumference divided by 4 and I'll add extra 2 inches for ease allowance again. Then over to the hip line, I'll also divide my hip circumference by 4 and add 2.5 inches to it. Then I'll connect all the lines together as shown. Then next I'm going to measure what I have on the hip line. Okay, and whatever I have there is what I'm going to be imputing on the hemline of this dress, after which I will connect from the hemline to the hip area. Okay, and that's all for our circumferences. All right, so next I am going to be marking my neck depth. Okay, but before then I'm going to give a little curve on this bust area where we place our bust circumference divided by 4. So I'll just make a little curve there, as you can see. Then back to the neck area, I'm going to come down by 3 inches for my neck depth, after which I'll pick up my curve ruler and I'll connect the lines together. So I went on to connect the lines together, as you can see. Then next to the shoulder line, remember we are working directly on our fabric. So because of that, I'm going to be marking extra 0.5 inches from the shoulder slope upwards. I'm going to mark extra 0.5 inches, and this is going to be for the allowance of joining our two shoulders together, after which I'll pick my scissors and I'll cut it out. So remember that this fabric is folded into 4, all right? And that implies that we're cutting both the front and the back together, okay? So I went on to cut out, okay? And once I was done doing that, I'm going to be separating the fabric, okay? I'm going to pick one, set it aside, and we are going to continue working on one, all right? So after separating them, I am going to start working on this one just as earlier stated. So the first thing I'm going to do at this point is to go ahead and open it up, and this will enable me to determine which side is the left side, because I want the cold shoulder sleeve to appear on the left side. After that, I will turn it back to the wrong side as well, and we are going to start our marking on the wrong side of our fabric, okay? So on the neckline towards me, I am going to be extending the neckline straight down with my straight ruler. Though we won't be making use of this line that I'm marking here, the straight line I'm connecting with my straight ruler, but it is going to assist us for guideline purposes, okay? So once I was done doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to come to the center line of our neckline, and I'm going to come down by 2 inches, okay? The midpoint of our neckline, I am going to measure 2 inches downward and mark. Next, on the left hand side of our neckline, where our cold shoulder is going to be cut out, I am going to measure from the neckline, come in by 3 inches. Then next, I will be connecting the point together as shown. So after tracing the neckline with my chalk, I'll pick up my scissors and cut it out. After cutting, the next thing I'm going to do is to pick up the fabric we set aside, that is the second part. I'm going to be placing this one on the second part, and I'm going to trace out the neckline as well and cut it out, because we are going to be using the same neckline for both the front and back fabrics. So on this cold shoulder area, I'm going to measure from my shoulder down to see what we have there. So I have 3.5 inches. But because we're working directly on our main fabric, when we join, we're going to join with extra 0.5 inches, and that will round the number to 4 inches. So that implies that we are removing 4 inches on this side. So remember, when we are replacing with our plain fabric, let's note it out that we are going to have our 4 inches replaced at this point. So if possible, go ahead and write it somewhere so that you won't forget the number, the amount of fabric or the inches that was subtracted. So just as earlier stated, I went on to bring this second fabric and place this other one on it to cut out the same shape of the neckline on this second part. So as soon as I was done doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to pick up the plain fabric that we are going to be using to turn our neckline. So for the purpose of this tutorial, I am going to be making use of a black velvet fabric. Okay, that is what I'm going to be using to cut out the facing for this neckline. So I'll go ahead and bring it in, and I'm going to fold it into two, after which I'm going to pick one of this fabric and place the neckline on the plain fabric. So here we have the velvet fabric, and I went ahead to fold it into two, after which I place one of the neckline on it, and I'll go ahead and trace it with my chalk. After I was done tracing on the neckline, I'll trace on the shoulder line, come down a little on both shoulder line. I'm going to pick my tape and measure in 3 inches. That is how wide I want the facing to be. So if you want yours to be longer than this, go ahead and measure your preferred length. Next, I'll remove the fabric, and I'm going to be marking 3 inches round the facing. Okay, so after marking the 3 inches round the facing, I am going to cut it out. Then remember, this is folded into two, and that means we are cutting the neckline of both the front and the back fabric. So next, I'm going to cut a lining piece for both of them, and I'm going to be turning the down parts of this velvet fabric only. We are not going to be turning the main neckline. We are only turning the down parts only. So take note of that. So that is what I'm going to do after cutting. I'll cut facing lining piece for it, and I'll turn the down part. So on the side that we are going to be attaching on the coat, I went on to notch that point and mark on it. This is so as not to get confused when we are going to be attaching it. Okay, so here is what we have, and this is what it's going to look like when we place it on our neckline. Okay, so I'll go ahead and cut the lining piece for it and turn it behind the seam. Next, I pick up one of the fabric and folded it into two, and this is so we can make a line or a marking where we are going to be adding our straight strip. So I went on to measure my nipple to nipple point divided by 2, and that is what I'm marking here. So from the folded part, mark your nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. So mine, I am using 4 inches, and that is what I went on to mark. Okay, so after which I will duplicate it on the other side. That is the second part of this fabric behind the seam. But after that, I'll also show you how it look like. Okay, so I was done marking, as you can rightly see. So at this point, I'm going to get our plain fabric, and I'm going to show you how we're going to be joining it. So here we have the plain fabric for our neckline, and I went on to turn it down just as earlier stated. So this is the point where I mark, and that is where we're going to be attaching on the coat shoulder area. So this is how you are going to place it. Place the right side of the plain fabric on the wrong side of your main fabric, so as to when you join, you are going to turn the plain fabric to the right side of your main fabric. I don't know if you get me. If you don't get, please pay attention, you understand. So I'll do that on both sides, both the front and the back. So I was done joining, and I went on to close the shoulder area. So you can see the back. I went on to top stitch. So if you want, you can leave it laying on top if you don't want to top stitch. So you can see how I joined the shoulder and open iron them. Okay, so this is also the line we earlier made our nipple to nipple point divided by 2, and just as I say, I duplicated it on both sides. So go ahead and do that on yours as well. So next we will get our plain fabric, a long string of fabric that we're going to use to attach here. Okay, all right. So note that when we reach at this neckline, we are going to subtract just what we remove at that point. Okay, so I went on to cut a long strip of velvet fabric for this replacement. So this is what we have. So initially I cut 4. Okay, the wideness was 4. So I went in to add a kind of a gum to it and folded in 0.5 inches, as you can see, thereby making what is left to be 3 inches. Okay, so it is long enough to make up for the length of our dress. So on the line marked, I am going to place it on it as shown, and I'm going to grab my pins and pin them down. This is very important so that it stays in place when you are sewing. Okay, and on this neckline, the beginning of the neckline, we're going to be measuring 8 inches. Remember, we'll cut out 3.5 inches and join with half an inch, making it 4. And this 4, we are going to multiply it by 2, which is 8 for both the front and the back replacements. Okay, so I'll go over to my machine. I'm going to join it and bring it back for us to see. And I'm also going to join the side. Okay, but I'll bring it back for us to see first. So this is it. I went on to join. You see, at this point, from this point upward, I'll measure and we have 4 inches. You see it because it's on fold. So this cover up for both the front and the back. That is what you will also do. So on the sleeve area, I am going to be adding the plain velvet that I've cut out. This is 2 inches on fold. When you open it up, you have 4 inches. I'll sew it on both sleeve area. So next, I have this fabric here. I want to use it for my pocket as my main fabric is not enough. So I have length 20 of this fabric and the wideness is 10 on fold. So next, I am going to refold it. Not that it's already folded, but I'm going to refold it, making it 4 folds in total. So I'm going to come in by 1.5 inches at this point. Then next, I'm going to measure in 9 inches long. Then I'll just connect it this way, as you can see. So pay attention, especially if you don't know how to cut a regular dress pocket. So this is how you go ahead and connect. Then you cut out. After which you are going to open up one side where the hand is going to pass through. So you see, I went on to open up this point where our hand is going to pass through. So next I am going to join. So we're going to be joining on the right side. Here we are going to join, leaving 7 inches for our opening. So I'm going to place it this way. We're going to join on the right side of the fabric. Take note of that. We are going to join the curved side. So on the curved side, leaving the straight side open. Okay, so I went on to sew the sleeve and also join the sides of my fabric. Okay, I went on to join. So if you don't know how to determine where to place your pockets, you are going to go over to your measure from your shoulder down to your waistline, after which you add extra 1 inch to the waistline measurement. Okay, the shoulder to waist measurement, you add extra 1 inch. So that is what I did on this other side. Then I attached my pockets. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you how to attach a pocket, and that is why I didn't attach the second part. Okay, so I sewed on the right side and open up inside out and top stitch on the wrong side. So this opening we have here is 7 inches long. Okay, so I went on to make a marking around there, just where I was supposed to sew, in case I was not putting pocket. Just the line where I was supposed to sew, I made a marking on it, as you can see, the white chalk. And I'm going to open up my pocket this way, attaching it right side facing right side. But before that, I'm going to mark the starting of my sewing and the end of my sewing, okay, for the pocket area. So I'll open up my main fabric this way, then I'll open up my pocket fabric as well, and I'm going to be laying the pocket fabric on the main fabric, joining the left side to the left side of the main fabric, and joining the right side of the pocket to the right side of the main fabric. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll bring it back for us to see. So I went on to sew it, as you can see here, and this is what we have. Okay, so I sewed this side for this side and this other side for this here. So I also have this lace trimming that I went on to add to the hem. So it is totally optional. If you want, you can add like mine, but if you don't want, there's nothing wrong with leaving it like that. So I'll turn it inside out for us to see what it look like. So you can see the pocket area. You can see how it's looking very fine, right? Thank you. So if you have watched at this point, you have not subscribed, please go ahead and hit on the subscribe button, like this video, share it, drop a comment for me. You are very free to ask any question related to this tutorial or other ones we have done before, and I'll go attend to all your questions. Okay, so I'm going to go and give this dress a very good press, and once I was done doing that, I'm going to return it for us to see how it look like. So I was done pressing it, and behold the beautiful look of our dress. This is so lovely and easy to make, just as you have seen. Thank you so much for watching. Go ahead and recreate this dress for yourself, and you will love it. See you next when I drop a tutorial like this. Bye.